it's Dale here. This is image transfer, simple image transfer part 2, because I've had so many questions during the week, so I thought I'd just reiterate what I did and work through my little things again. Now, last time I talked about laser and inkjet transfer. This is an inkjet printed piece, and it's just printed on ordinary printing paper. That's all I've used for this. And if you remember, I got some fusible webbing, which in our case in Australia is called Vlisifix, or it could be Wonder Under or Bondaweb. Now this is a fusible webbing on a paper back. You can see it there. It's reasonably coarse, it's fairly not expensive, and it's designed to bond two things together. And all you do, just to remind you, I'm not ironing, but you put it onto your background, which in this case is felt, but it could be calico, it could be paper, it could be whatever you're working on, and cut a piece off and iron it on with the paper on the top. Then peel the paper off, and what you are left with is a sticky background. Then you take your image and put it placed down onto that surface, the sticky image, sticky side. Cover it with baking paper because the stick will stick to your iron, and iron it on. And then when you've done that, you go to your water bottle and you spray and wet it all. Or you could use a sponge, but I find this works really well. And then if you remember, you just gently rub until you get the paper off. Now, that's just a quick redos of it anyway. And if you also recall, I did a few different ones. So that's the inkjet one, and it's after I rubbed a lot of the paper off, still a little bit there. And this was the laser one. It didn't matter how much I wet it and sprayed it, it still came back like that when I'd finished. So I've decided that inkjet's the way to go. If I rub something like the Gamlin wax or a matte medium even on it, it will make it a little bit clearer, but it still won't be the same. And then this was another one I did, if you recall, and this was my little donkey in Marrakesh, poor Marrakesh at the moment. And this was the one with the inkjet, worked really well, except that I forgot to reverse it. This is the one with the laser where I did reverse it, but it doesn't matter what I do to it, it still has that covering. So it's got to be something in the laser transfer. And then I did another one after that, which is that, if you've followed my previous, some of my previous videos, these are the Godwits at Foxton Beach. And I had a piece of jelly printed poly cotton that I used for my backing for this one. And it was just acrylic paints that I'd put on, I forget now, maybe with a stencil or a stamp. And so I put my image onto it and did the same thing, but it's an inkjet one, and I'm really quite pleased with that. It's quite dark, but I could stitch into it, but having made it into that little frame from the jelly print. And this one here is this particular image, which a photo I took. I'll use my own photos. I don't use other people's photos. I don't see any point in doing work from other people's work. It doesn't mean anything to me. So this was at the same place at Foxton Beach on the estuary. Now, I transferred my image onto a piece of damask, which I had painted with acrylic paints. So you can see that's the fabric. It's quite firm. The first one I did was the laser one, and that's put it onto it. It's not too bad, and I have waxed it with the Gamlin wax. It's still quite dark, and it's still got bits and pieces, but I could work around that if I needed to. So it's darker than these colours, as you can see. So then I decided to do another one on the other side with an inkjet. And again, you can see the colours are truer and it's lighter. And I think it's worked better. It's got bits and pieces where I rub some off in my haste. The thing is, if you rub your image off, it's not the end of the world. You can do another one. Or you can colour them with paints or wax, pastels, or graphy tint, or water, Neocolor, whatever you've got. I've been using Senneliers on some of them. So that was that one. And then this was the other one that I showed you. And this was a photo I took at the estuary at Foxton Beach. And the first one that I did, these are all inkjet. I learnt my lesson on this one, but I had forgot to reverse it. So the sun's wrong. It might not look anything to anyone else, but I know it's on the wrong side. But it's still got bits of white in because I only worked so far. It's on felt. So that's that one. Then I did a few others, just mucking around on bits of felt. Some of them I half did, and then in my eagerness I rubbed some parts off. So you can see those ones. The thing is, it's not supposed to be a perfect repeat. It's not an image transfer where you're getting exactly what you started with, because nature's not like that. And if you want something perfect, just print on one of the inkjet printing papers or something like this. This is a way to get a sort of a fragment of what you've done. So this was my final one that I decided wasn't too bad in the end. And I'm quite pleased with how that worked out. And I put a little frame around it just to show. So that's my reflection of, and I'll put that into my book at some stage. I've used some silk on it, and I've used a bit of silk that I had here just to try and get that, and a tiny bit of stitching just to get the effect. So I hope that's answered the questions that people have asked me. And for the person who, or the 3 people who asked me what on earth would I do with it, did you think that's what people kept asking Monet and Van Gogh and anyone else, any other famous painters, what they did with their work? Because it's all the same. Okay, enjoy. Bye. See you again another time.